Welcome to part 2 of our music and video games chat. In this half, we're talking about some more of our favourite soundtracks and deciding what one gaming soundtrack or score we would keep if we had to banish the rest from existence. So let's jump back in. Are there any particular games that we haven't brought up so far that you want to shine a light on how good the... Yes, Heather, you do.
Yeah. It kind of goes in line with what we were saying about how music can kind of indicate that there's so much more that's going to happen. Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah.
Basically, the whole start of the game, you're in the hinterlands for ages, running around, doing different things, and eventually something happens, and you end up journeying to Skyhold, and the track's actually called Journey to Skyhold, and it's the sort of base of operations. And the entire track to the build-up to you going to this new base of operations and becoming the Inquisitor is just one of the most memorable, goosebump-inducing moments for me ever. And I listen to that track all the time because it just makes me be like, yeah, do this kind of thing. If I need to be like motivated or just feel better,
I do that with the Witcher soundtrack. If I want to feel like, if I want to amp myself up, the first track on the Witcher soundtrack, which is you've played the beginning of The Witcher, so you'll know it's the first
3?
piece of music that plays in The Witcher 3 when it's the cutscene and Yen's going to battle, and it's got this woman doing these. Again, not going to do it as much as I want to give it a go. This woman doing this kind of chanting, like this kind of not guttural, but just very powerful, kind of almost like a yell. And whenever I hear that, I'm like, I could do anything. If Yen can do it, I'm like channeling my inner Yen when I hear it, and it's like another one of those goosebumpy
kind of moments where you're like, I'm only just getting started, kind of things.
I guess for me, in sort of like in terms of like scores of soundtracks that sort of like take it up a gear, the one that always sticks in my mind is Hotline Miami, because I think that is a game that, like, if you, again, sort of what we were talking about earlier, if you take away the soundtrack from Hotline Miami, I think it's nowhere near as fun as it could be. Yeah. But like the first time you do a proper mission in that, I think I want to say it's Moon's Oxygen, but it's just deep, absolutely filthy synth, like proper 80s synth. And you start like picking up the pace, you start figuring out the patterns, and all the while you've just got this like dun 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 in the background, and like I got so locked into it, and it's one of those times where like it almost became like a real action game, like when you started doing stuff to the beat, like and actually weirdly, you know, another game like that is Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends. They have I'm really annoyed that I forgot about this, but they have levels. They have these special levels at the end of like certain worlds which are actually soundtrack to specific songs. There's one really early on that's to Black Betty, but the idea is you jump along in time with the beat. So, and it's because I think like they are almost like, again, like they're platformers first and foremost, but you can play those levels almost to the beat of them, and I think that's what it kind of encourages you to do. And at the end, it just makes it overt by going like, well, here you go, because Eye of the Tiger's in one as well. It's like a mariachi version of Eye of the Tiger as you go along.
Well, that's like on here.
Honestly, so like, they're so good.
Completely forgot about Black Betty as well. So
man,
good.
I'm really annoyed because yesterday we were writing all these down, and like Rayman Legends and Rayman Origins didn't appear, and now I'm disgusted with myself.
We're going to have to cut this out with final edit, just out of principle, because it wasn't one of the ones you wrote down.
Oh no! But no, yeah, like Rayman Legends is like what they did with, not only were the songs like really fun versions or really fun takes on those songs, but again, like, you know, when you play along to it, it almost like you sort of like have like that Pavlov's dog response of like, there's the beat, there's the beat, there's the beat,
it's
and
like that reactionary kind of music thing.
So
speaking of games that like put their own spin on a song, have you seen that video of Katy Perry doing her song in Simlish?
Yes.
I have.
That creeps me out, man. I don't know why.
Sorry, I was just going to say, some of the Simlish songs I absolutely love, like Lily Allen's Smile.
That's the one that comes to my mind as well. It's the first one I ever heard and thought, this is a real song. I know what this is. It's really confusing. And there's like a Black Eyed Peas song as well, I think.
Yes.
So let's get started. It's for, I'm pretty sure it's for the Herbs.
Could you tell me what that was in Simlish? Let's get started. It sounds like you're being reversed.
I like, if we play this back, is it ever going to be sort of
speaking to the devil?
Yes, satanic verses.
Satan, I'm thinking. I was just thinking
Don't know if
then
that's the right
of the Wii music, of the Mii
Oh.
music.
Oh, I mean, like, how have we had a conversation about music and not
Classic.
talked about the Wii menu music?
It's that. Did you always enjoy that song though, or did you?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
want
Get the
to
time.
What
Imagine
about?
if you went to a club and they played that.
I want that.
Everyone's doing like,
There's probably some
how
great
would you dance
remixes
to
of
that?
it.
You'd have to kind of be quite.
It'd be interpretive.
Yeah.
It would, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, I'd probably dance to it hard. That's everything. Hands in pockets, awkwardly shuffling.
You can't do that to that. That's gonna be the only song that doesn't work. You can do that. That would be great.
Well, there's your social clip.
Yeah, yeah. I'm keeping that whole thing in. I don't care if we get demonetised for humming for the Wii tune. Though, this is a very left field choice. But you just reminded me because you brought up the Wii. One game I think has a really good soundtrack. I'm laughing because it's a terrible choice. Is there's a Cars Wii game.
Oh,
And it has All American Rejects. It has Leonard Skinner, I think.
Leonard Skinner.
Wait,
Game.
Freebird.
Oh, Freebird's
What?
a great
No,
song.
but what's the point?
Like,
Leonard
The
Skinner
one
in a
good
car.
Leonard Skinner song and it's not even on the soundtrack.
oh, it's great. It's a lovely game.
I'm
And when you're
fighting-
racing and then All American Rejects comes in, you're like, I'm gonna batter these other
Also,
cars.
watch All American Reject song.
It's called Drive All Night.
Oh, God.
It's one of the lesser known ditties. But,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
ditties. Yeah, but it really came alive in the context of Radiator
Deep
Springs.
cut for the fans here.
Could you give me a drum roll, please?
Yeah.
Final question is. Oh, I was wondering when it was going to start.
Put your hands up.
You can only listen to one game soundtrack or score for the rest of your life, both in and outside of the game. Every other soundtrack ceases to exist. What you're listening to? We have to do like a 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
It's really tough because you have different moods and you're like, I want something more upbeat, and then sometimes you're like, I want something quiet and chill so I can relax. But one.
You could think of it through the frame of if there was one game soundtrack that you think defines you the best. Like if you.
No, sticking to the original. Let's
hand cramp.
let's fan or snap a few songs.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Every other soundtrack ceases to exist. So when you pick yours, both of ours cease to exist. Thanks, Heather. So
Mate, you're gonna
I'm
make me
not.
laugh.
Why am I going first?
you have to pick Tony Hawk now.
Just see me simmering with
We're suddenly
rage.
giving you all the power. We're having to pitch to you what one you should
Oh
pick.
God, that's another issue as well. I can't just go like Tony Hawk's Underground. No, I can't just go Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. The entire collective works have to be Underground.
The best of Tony Hawk. That's what I'm picking.
I've said it now. So I am actually going to go for Tony Hawk's Underground.
Are you?
And the reason why, I think 1 to 4 had amazing soundtracks. But I remember on Underground, Alkaline Trio's Armageddon was on there, and it's one of the first times where I became so obsessed with a song that I'm surprised it didn't wear out the PS2 disc. Just because in Tony Hawk's games you could like turn off and on the songs you want to listen to, so I'm pretty sure at a certain point I just had that song gone. And it sort of saw me, I got a load of their albums afterwards as well. Like they became like a pop punk band I really loved as a kid. But that's the one where I remember, like that was the first time where I was playing a game, heard a song, and I was so fixated on like this song because I really liked it so much, especially like thought it suited the game. But yeah, I think that would be the one.
Well,
Already, sorry,
That's locked in.
sorry, Tony Hawk's 1 to 4.
Can you do a
Then-
Thanos snap, please? Right.
Sorry, that's what
right.
it is.
All
Thanos
those,
was
Really?
a bit pizzazz.
Oh, listen, he's putting a little sugar on it.
Oh.
see, I've been managing to put this
You're
off for
stalling.
a while. It's really hard because there are like soundtracks and there are scores that I absolutely love, but the one that I just return to all the time, and that I think if I had to pick a track to play at my funeral, this is how I would work it out.
This is
Took a turn, didn't it?
I know, so
This
very
is
personal to me.
12 on
Are
a
you going to play
Wednesday.
Tony Hawk at your funeral?
Absolutely, I am.
You're going to coffin just on a
Yeah,
skateboard.
yeah, real big fish.
Well, it's probably quite predictable in a way, for me anyway. But because the Dragon Age series holds such a special place for me in my heart, I think Dragon Age Inquisition, there's something for every mood in that score. And there's so many like moments. I've just spent I don't know how many hours in that game, listening to the music as I run around, or just listening to it outside of the game. And there's so many pivotal moments in the story where I'm like, I could pick out the song and be like, I know exactly what happened at that point.
Yeah.
So I have to go with that. Definitely.
Solid choice. Very different choices.
Yeah.
Oh, double snaps.
Whoa.
Someone's gonna have to snap for me because I can't. Well, not now. I haven't said anything yet.
Just
Actually,
a
don't.
You
Actually,
have. You said cars.
oh, am I locked in?
Locked in.
Cars on the
in.
Wii.
It's snapped now. It's gone.
Oh well, I thought it was cars on Wii. That also, it sounds like I'm saying cars on your Wii. I'm not feeling cars right now. And then I thought you said the Wii menu music. Menu.
Do a bit of shopping on your Wii.
Is that
Wii menu.
Menu.
Is that how they say it in New
Menu.
Zealand?
Oh, the menu. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna whisper in Heather's ear what I think it will be.
Okay. I think I heard what you said, and now it might have been that, and now I don't want it to be, because I think I heard. Did you say The Witcher 3?
I did say The Witcher 3.
I thought about picking The Witcher 3.
And the best thing about it is as well now,
but
you're sort of sitting.
You know what? I'm actually going to stick with Cars Wii because I don't like to be predictable.
Are you ready for the click? This is
Click
the way.
it.
Oh, it's gone. Witcher,
Cars Wii.
gone.
Oh, no.
Life is Strange, gone.
Oh, geez.
Tony Hawk's. You can listen to a lot of Tony Hawk's and Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah.
Leonard Skinner.
Local natives.
Leonard
Just-
Skinner.
Yes. And not even the one good Leonard Skinner song.
Right, this has descended into nonsense.
Chaos.
Nonsense.
This is what happens when you destroy about 99.9% of the world's recorded music to leave Tony Hawk's Underground soundtrack, the Dragon Age Inquisition score, and the Cars Wii, because you didn't want me to be right.
I'm spiteful like that. What can I say then?
You have to live with it
I've cut
now,
my own
though.
nose to spite my face, and
Well-
then I have to listen to
well,
Leonard
now you've cut off
Skinner and All American Music.
Enjoy Leonard Skinner while Geralt becomes nothing but folklore.
I could play The Witcher with some Leonard Skinner in the background. Slightly
Well, I'm
different
as free as a bird.
vibe. He is as free as a bird
Yes.
in many ways.
Um,
Right, well, I guess that's it.
it is.
That's I don't really know how to.
I guess that's it in
lost the will
many,
to live.
many meanings
When you
of
lose
the
the will
words.
to live, that's when you wrap the video up. That's the rule I have.
I've had
That's
a
all,
good time.
folks.
Yeah. Death can't come soon enough. That's what Ben said he was going to say in the video, but no.
No, I didn't.
You've had a hoot and a holler then, haven't you?
enjoyed it, yeah.
Yeah,
Hoot
that's
and a
good.
holler.
Well, that's what we think about music and video games. Let us know which one of us you agree with in the comments below, and come back next week for another Dialogue Options.
Thanks
Goodbye.
again. Bye.